Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. Okay, so this weekend I had a wedding cake and it was supposed to be white and gold, and it was supposed to have like stenciling pattern at the on the bottom tier. So I had no stencil for a while, so I wanted to stencil with some royal icing and with some gold highlight. So today I'm going to be showing you how to stencil with royal icing, and I'm going to show you my my new royal icing recipe that firms up and is perfect for stenciling. It's not droopy and it's not too stiff. So let's get started. The stencil you're going to use, if you're going to use a stencil, it's best if it's big enough, because big stencils make your life easier. You don't have to go several times. Okay, so this royal icing recipe, I wanted to formulate one myself based on I don't know, it's been a while I kind of stenciled, so I can't remember what recipe I use or if I ever had a recipe. So in this video, you guys are going to watch me formulate a recipe. Okay, so I kind of know what I'm going for. I know the consistency I'm going for. So when we get there, I'm going to tell you the amount of egg white it took and the amount of icing sugar. Okay, so for this recipe, what I did was I used one single egg white. So, and then I started to add icing sugar in increasing volumes, and every time I added icing sugar, I would measure how much I've added at each point to be able to know how much icing sugar am I going to use to one egg white to get the consistency I want. Okay, so guys, if you want my other recipes, I have amazing recipes, cake recipes, buttercream, ganache, cake fillings, all sorts of recipes for you guys on this channel. So I need you guys to please subscribe and give me a thumbs up. Okay, if you're not even going to subscribe, just give me a thumbs up on this video, please. Is it too much to ask? No, it's not. Maybe it is, but please do. Thank you. I'd really love it. Okay, so I kind of realized I was getting lumps in my royal icing, so I decided to use my hand mixer to mix it even more so it doesn't become lumpy or anything. So we're still not where we want to be, so I'm going to be adding icing sugar and increasing volumes. I think at this point I added about 180 grams of icing sugar, and it still wasn't at the consistency I want. The reason why you don't want to mix with, you can use your mixer to make this, but I'm making a very small volume, because if you're stenciling with icing sugar, you don't need that much. If you're stenciling with royal icing, you don't need that much actually. You can 1/4 of this will do, but you can't share an egg white into 4 parts. I don't know. So anyway, so at this point, I think this was about 210 at this point. So I was going to stir it and see how stiff, because you need it to be stiff enough. Yeah, you need it to be stiff enough to be able to hold this place and not form spikes when you remove your stencils. And at the same time, you don't want it to be droopy. You don't want it to be too stiff, and you don't want it to be droopy. So it's kind of very tricky. Anyway, so the reason why I'm not using my mixer at this point is because I wanted to use a spoon, so I'll be able to see the thickness, how it feels. I don't know if you get, but when I was sure I was kind of satisfied, so I decided to use my mixer to break up all the lumps and make it extra fluffy and stuff, and it was very thick, so it was making my bowl misbehave. Anyways, the recipe I finally arrived at for stenciling was 1 egg white, a medium-sized egg, and 210 grams of icing sugar. Okay, so it's kind of a little tricky because all eggs are not the same. So if you're going to be using this recipe, you want to go between 180 to maybe 220 or 230 grams of icing sugar, depending on how big or how small your egg is. So just see which one you prefer, and you can do a test like I'm doing right now before you put it on your cake. So I said take my stencil and take the back of a cake board and then try to see how it works. So if it's too droopy, just add a little bit more icing sugar. If it is too stiff, just maybe put a drop of water. I said a drop, guys. Royal icing easily gets diluted. 1 drop will dilute it enough for you. Okay, so I was okay with the consistency I got, so I add 1 egg white to 210 grams of sugar. So if you're going to be using this, please pay attention to the size of your egg. Okay, so I was going to stencil on this cake, and I wanted it to be gold because this cake was supposed to be white and gold. It was a wedding cake, and it was so pretty, and the couple loved it. Anyways, so at this point I was taking I didn't have a tool for like applying it, it would be good if you use a small spatula. Like all my tiny spatulas are broken. I don't know, I kind of just broke them one after the other. So if you have a small spatula, that's the best thing to use at this stage. So what you want to do is you want to apply your royal icing to every point. And when I say every point, you want to make sure no part of your stencil is empty, because that way when you take off your stencil, you can see the parts that are kind of empty. Because if we're making white right now, so you can't really tell, because the color of the royal icing is the same color as the base of the cake, so you can't really tell. But this is going to be gold. We're going to spray it gold, so I'm going to show you how to do that. So once you spray it gold, it's going to highlight, sorry, it's going to highlight your stencil, like the pattern your stencil made on it, so you can see the parts that are empty. So you want to make sure that every part of your cake is kind of covered, if that makes sense, like every part. So make sure you take your time. And if you notice, my stencil is kind of small, because these are just the regular stencils they sell, but there are other kind. I'm going to put the link in the description box for you guys to buy like my favorite tools in this video. Like usually when I make a video, I leave links for you guys in the bottom in the description box, so you can buy like my favorite tools and maybe the things I used in the video and stuff. Okay, and also I want you to notice that my stencil is small. I kind of had to go like 3 times, so which can be a little bit difficult. So I'm going to leave a link for bigger stencils for you guys if you'd like to buy like a wide stencil that can maybe go around your cake once, or if it's a larger cake, maybe at most 2 times, so you don't have to do it separately. And they're usually around the same price. They're very cheap and like really nice. Anyways, you want to pay attention to like covering every part. So in this video I was using a knife, because you know I kind of broke all my mini spatulas, so you know I had to resort to this. And I kind of made a video, I made a mistake doing this, but I'm going to tell you guys the mistake very soon, so you don't make the same mistake as me. So at this point I had covered everything, so I wanted to scrape. You need to scrape off the excess with a flat tool. You can use a big spatula, you can use maybe a scraper. It's best for you to use a scraper, because like you know it will scrape nicely and evenly. Okay, so at this point I want to, you've scraped off the excess royal icing on your stencil. So if you want to make it a different color, this is the time to do that, and I'm going to show you. Today I'm going to be airbrushing gold on top of the stencil. If you notice, I haven't removed my stencil yet, because you want to airbrush the gold, so it's when you remove your stencil, it will like the parts that are showing will be highlighted gold. You guys will see what I'm talking about in a second. I hope I'm not blabbing, and I'm going to put subtitles in this video in case like most people complain that I talk too fast. So in case maybe you don't really understand me, I'm going to subtitle this video for you so it can be easy, because I'm sweet like that. Anyways, so I already mixed my food coloring, my edible gold dust. I mixed it with some alcohol, and you don't want it to be too thick so it can come out of your airbrush. And if you're not using an airbrush, that's not a problem. Just take your food brush and your paint and start to paint. Just paint until you cover the whole perimeter of the stencil. Don't bother. Once you remove the stencil, you're going to see the pattern, but before you remove the stencil, you don't want to move it, you don't want to shake it, you don't want to, otherwise you're going to like disrupt your pattern kind of. So just start to paint. If you're using a brush, awesome. If you're using an airbrush, even better. Okay, so what I noticed when I was doing this was the fact that I was being careful so I don't transfer paint onto the other part of the cake I don't want to paint. So I kind of ended up painting the top part of the cake gold, because like when I was doing my stencil I wasn't very careful. Okay, another thing you want to do is you have to do this before you cover the base of your cake, like your cake board in fondant, because the color is going to transfer, and you don't want that. You want your you want the part that will be gold to be really gold and nice, and you want the part that will be white to be really white, you get. So you want to make sure like you do this, you finish your stenciling before covering your cake board in fondant. I kind of made that mistake, so I already covered my cake board, so I had to like scrape it off and everything. Okay, so at this point I'm just trying to like saturate every part of that stencil with my edible gold dust that I'm spraying on top of it. And if you notice, I'm trying to cover the parts that like, it's a lot better if you use a brush. Like I was supposed to use a brush for this, but a brush kind of makes it a little easier, but it kind of stains other parts of the cake. But I kind of found a way to disguise it and stuff. So you want to paint and like just spray onto every part of your stencil before you peel it off. So the moment of truth, now we are good. The moment of truth, yeah. So now we are going to peel off our stencil and see how pretty Oh, see how pretty. Okay, so now that you've done this, you're going to do the same thing around the cake, yeah? And if you notice, you can see stains of gold dust, like gold spray on my, on my cake board, and that's not nice. So what you want to do is, once you do that, I had to peel off the, the fondant I already put on the base of my cake board. So, and I had to put another one so it can be white and clean. And you should note that if you're going to, once you do the first coating of the stencil and it doesn't cover your whole cake, and you're going to put it on the other side, like you're going to do again on another side of the cake, you want to make sure you clean your stencil. You clean off the gold, you clean off the excess royal icing that was there when you used it the first time. Otherwise, it will transfer and stress you out. So that's all you have to do. And this cake was really pretty, and see how nice it came. If you notice, I painted the top part of the cake gold, and that was because like I wasn't very careful. So like some gold dust kind of like touched that part, so I had to improvise and look for what to do to make it uniform and intentional, and that was what I did. Cake decorating is basically you just going with the flow and doing what you think will look best. So make sure when your customers tell you a design to do, you tell them to keep an open mind just in case something doesn't go right. That way you can switch up, and then it might even be prettier. So you can't really say. So at this point, I was trying to cover the cake board again because I had already removed the fondant initially. So thank you guys so much for always watching my videos, and this was the final cake. It was so pretty. The bride and the groom loved it. I'm not even kidding. It was so beautiful. So thank you guys so much, and I will see you in my future tutorials. I was trying to add flowers, don't mind me. Thank you, and bye.